Welcome, everyone. I am Patty Martell, supervising producer at CNBC and the moderator of today's Women in Wealth live stream. We want to empower women to be better investors and make informed financial decisions. Before we get started with today's conversation, I do want to let you know about the Women in Wealth event that is coming up. That's March 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we will bring together top financial experts to help you build a better playbook, offer practical strategies to increase income, identify profitable investment opportunities, and save for the future. To save for the future and set yourself up for a stronger 2024 and beyond. It's a free event, so scan the QR code to register or visit cnbcevents.com/women-in-wealth. Let's get started. My guest today is Tiffany Aliche, also known as the Budgetnista. She's a personal finance expert and best-selling author of Get Good with Money. Tiffany, welcome.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited about this conversation with you because you're the budget expert, and this series focuses on the importance of investing for the future and all of that begins with a financial budget. You need to know exactly how much is coming in, how much is going out.
Exactly. A budget, honestly, Patty, is a picture of like what your money is doing. Typically, it's within a specific time frame, usually about a month. So money in from whether it's a job, maybe you have alimony, maybe you get child support, whatever that looks like. So all income coming in and then all of your expenses going out. From cash expenses, maybe you have children, whatever your bills are. So if you can get a clear picture of what your money is doing, you can tell it to do what you want it to do.
Right. And it's a great snapshot of you can make these decisions based on this information, right? Because if you make, let's say $100,000 a year and $100,000 a year goes out, that's not good. Or or 110,000 goes out every year. It's great to see everything itemized. So then from there, you can start making these decisions of how much you want to be putting in your retirement account, how much you want to be putting in your emergency fund.
The budgets is really, I know a lot of people hate the word budget. Sometimes I call it a money list, but it's the fundamentals, right? It's the foundation that you build the rest of your financial house on. That if you want to have enough money left over to invest for wealth or for security, you have to first understand, what is my money currently doing? How can I spend less than I make or make more than I spend? With the excess of that money, you want to save some for emergencies and security. And then with the excess there, you want to invest to grow, because you cannot budget your way to wealth. It's merely the foundation for the rest of your financial house.
And let's talk about those buckets, because there are buckets that have higher priorities, right? So what do you say when you see the numbers and you see kind of how everything is allocated, where do you want to start building first?
Well, one, when I have people create a budget, Patty, I was like, let's do an activity. So I used to be a school teacher. And so I'm like, sometimes people get really overwhelmed and worked up. And so I'm like, well, let's make a list of all the things you spend money on before we start to put judgment on how you're spending money. Because then people don't tell the truth always. You ever see a little kid with chocolate all over their face? Like, did you eat chocolate? No. Because they're like, they feel guilty about like what they've done. So I like to start with that activity. You make a list of everything that you spend money on. That's step one.
And you can do this. I saw this on your website.
Yes.
There is a spreadsheet. It's a Google Doc. It's spreadsheet. You can do this in the privacy of your own home if you feel like you said, maybe you'd like to overspend in some areas. Maybe you like to go do a little more shopping that you probably should. This is a great free resource. I mean, you could obviously do it yourself with like a pen and a notebook. But if you want to see it in a spreadsheet, you have one on your website.
I do. And so because I wanted to bypass the barrier of entry to getting on financial track. So you make a list, words just at first. This helps to keep you honest. And then after you make that list, I want you to write down, on average, how much are you spending monthly on everything on that list? You might have to pull up an old credit card statement, maybe your past debit card statements. If you pay your water bill, say like every quarter, and it's say about $90, maybe it's $30 a month. We want to get to a monthly amount That's really the next step of like, okay, this is what I'm spending monthly. Then I want you to write down, what are you monthly taking in? Remember, I mentioned it's not just your regular, job. You might have a side hustle, maybe you Uber Eats. I don't know, whatever income that you're making monthly, I want you to account for that. And then you're going to add up your list, your money list, your budget, and then subtract it from what you take home monthly. And there you just have a basic budget. Here's what my money is doing. Here's what's coming in. This is the difference between the two. And that number might be negative. I often call that step, when you're subtracting what you're spending from what you're making, the tears and tissue step, because oftentimes it's not pretty. It's negative for many people. Or even if it is positive, you don't actually see that extra money. So you might say, well, it says I have $200 left over. Where is it? I don't know where that $200 is located. So once we have that step, now we can start to look to say, do we need to make some changes? And likely if you're creating a budget, it's because you do. So my favorite step is I like to label each of the components of that budget. I like to label them B, UB, or C. So B are all your bills. Just put a B next to every bill. Sometimes people are like, how do I know if it's a bill? I'm like, well, don't pay it and you're in trouble. That's how you know it's a bill. So you're going to put a B next to all the B's on your list, the bills on your list. And then you're going to put a U in front of the B's that are like utility-like bills, or bills that shift based upon your usage. So that U stands for usage or utility, and so you might only have a handful: water, electric, just a handful of those bills that fluctuate. And then everything else you're going to put a C next to. And that C stands for cash expenses or choice expenses. Basically, this is where you have the most choice when it comes to your spending. And the reason, Patty, that I like people to label their expenses B, UB, and C is that it gives you this sense of where you have the most control. If I'm going to start to cut back on my budget and to say, like, where do I have the most space to cut back? I'm going to likely look at my C's first, because that might be groceries, that might be grooming, that might be going out on the weekends.
That might be the expensive coffee you buy every morning on your way to work.
Yes. Right. And so then it'll lead you to, okay, maybe there's not enough C's to cut. Then you can start looking at your UBs, like, okay, because this is where you have kind of like a medium range of choice, right? Because these are utilities that are based upon your usage. These bills, go up and down based upon your usage. So if you use less, you spend less. And then if that doesn't still work, then you can look at your Bs. This is like your mortgage, your rent. These are more fixed expenses where you have to make harder choices. Now, here's the thing, Patty, that I found that people do. I like people to do something where I'm like, add up all your C's. How much do they cost you a month? Add up all your B's and UBs. How much do those cost you? If most of your money is going to B's and UBs, that means you might have a don't make enough issue, meaning most of your money is going to responsibilities. Right. And so if most of your money is going to C's, you might have a spend too much issue, meaning most of your money is going to your choice expenses. So I find that when I tell someone who is already frugal, we have to look at your budget, they try to get more frugal. That might not be the answer. You might need to make more money. And when I tell someone who is kind of like lavishly spending, you need to control your budget, they're like, I'll just make more. That might not be the answer. You might actually need to cut back. So labeling your budget like that is a really helpful tool.
So you talked about this expenditures and where the money is going, and where's the investing bucket?
So ideally, if you have a 401k or an IRA, you want to do that even before your take-home pay lands into your bank account, right? So if you are a woman, you're going to want to save more. Women tend to live longer than men. So the bare minimum ideally is about 10% of your gross income you want to be putting aside for retirement. We're really creeping up to this 15, 20% mark. You might say there's no way. Start at 1%. And then every year you increase another 1%. I like to think about it this way. If your job were to come to you now and say, unless you take a 1% pay cut, we have to let you go, you would adjust. So adjust, because it is your younger self's job to look after your older self. So I actually named my older self. Her name is Wanda. And Wanda's like, no, we have to adjust.
Now, let's do it now. You're investing in your future self, is what I like to say here. It's also a good opportunity when you're kind of taking stock of, your P&L to find out how much your company matches.
Yes.
Right?
It's free
because
money.
it's free. It's literally free money. And that is a goal that you can work towards, right? Like if you say maybe you want to start small, but your company matches, I don't know, 5-6%, like
Mhm.
then okay, I need to work myself up to at least 6% because now you're up to, if your company matches 5%, you're up to 10%. And
Exactly.
that makes a big difference.
A huge difference, because if 10% is the goal, if you put in 5 and they put in 5, you got to 10%, only having to put half of that money up. And so if your company matches and you are not at least trying to get to their match, you're literally throwing money out the window. And one of the wonders of the world is compound interest. And so that's when your money makes money on top of money making money. So one penny invested today, and like let's just say you invest $1 today and you make 1% every day. Then the next day, you're making money off of $1 and 1 penny. Then the next day, it becomes $1 and 2 pennies. Before you know it, that compounding interest means not only are you making money on the initial dollar, but the pennies that you've collected along the way. The issue is that if you wait to start, you miss out on all that compounding interest. You don't get to make money off of the money that you've made. And so, like, the
And
sooner
you're
you start,
talking years.
years. The
Years.
sooner you start, the better. I have a stepdaughter. She's 17, and she does my social media. And because she works for me, we max out her retirement account every year. Of course, she never understands it. Like, why can't I have all my money? And I'm like, you will thank me later, because you're 17. So if you can max it out every year, by the time you're 30, 40 years old, you're going to be just so grateful that you don't have to think about your retirement.
And another point about retirement is your 401k specifically, if you're eligible through your job, is that it's a good opportunity to find out what the company matches, and also the contributions went up this year, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you need to adjust it to maximize it every year if you're able to max it out every year, right? Just be aware of like what that amount is now.
Almost every year the contributions go up. And on top of that, if you are 50 and above, you can actually put even more. It's called what is it called again? Catch-up contributions, yes.
Mhm.
And so that's great, because they understand that if you're 50, you're nearing retirement, and maybe you didn't start when you were 17, 18, 19. So you can put more than the average person. The benefit of a 401k and a traditional IRA, Patty, I'm sure you know, is that you actually get to lower your current taxes right now. So let's just say, for the sake of easy math, you make $100,000 a year and you put $5,000 into your retirement account. The government says, "Hey, Patty didn't make 100,000. We're going to tax her on 95,000 because she put 5,000 out." Now, when it's time for you to retire, you will have to pay taxes on the money that you're pulling out, but still, it allows you to have a little bit of a tax relief currently now.
Right, exactly. And you talk a lot about this in the book, Get Good with Money. And one of the things that I really loved about it is that you have 10 simple steps to becoming financially whole, things that are totally approachable, and things that you can take on a couple at a time, one at a time, start small and then build your way down the list, right?
Exactly. So the thing is, I think sometimes financial freedom, the term that we've all heard and had mixed reviews about, feels like unattainable for a lot of people, that one day you'll have a pile of money, you won't have to work anymore. So I came up with this phrase, financial wholeness, which means if I achieve these 10 things, which is budgeting, savings, debt, credit, learning to earn, so income, investing for both retirement and wealth, your net worth, insurance, your financial team, and estate planning. If I master those 10 things, I can holistically be good financially. Each of those 10 is 10%. You get 100%. You can take care of your family. You can go on vacations. You can still live a really good life. Even if you don't achieve traditional financial freedom, financial wholeness is achievable for most people.
And don't feel, I think one of the things that I think is important to also to highlight is like, you don't have to do 10 all at once.
No, not at all. You can
Yeah.
literally, I just reached 100% financial wholeness, because estate planning is one of those things that none of us really enjoy doing. And so I finally finished my will and my trust. And so it's really something, it gives you a roadmap to your money, if you will, that you're slowly collecting them along the way. The first 5 are the 5 that everyone should start with: how to budget, how to save, how to manage debt, how to manage your credit, and how to earn. You focus on those first 5. And when you master them, then you can start to accumulate the other 5.
Right. And Tiffany, these are lessons that were hard lessons to learn.
Mhm.
For you personally, you've written about that, you've talked about that, and you didn't start investing very young, right? You talked about the challenges of 2009, and I mean those were hard times, being out of work, losing your condo,
Mhm.
and so you are an example of like it's possible to start and save and get on track, even if it's in your
Much later.
30s or much later. Yeah.
So I did start putting aside in my retirement account when I first started working. I was a preschool teacher. But then the recession happened. I bought a condo in my mid-20s and I was trying to save it. So I did what they tell you never to do. And I wish I can go back to that, Tiffany, and say, stop. I took all the money out of my retirement account to try to save the condo. And so not only did I not save the condo, so now I didn't have retirement money and I didn't have a home because it was foreclosed upon. And so if I would have known that, old folks call it throwing good after bad. So if I would have known that they were going to take the condo anyway, that I would have saved the money, that I would have not taken money out of my retirement account. And I don't know what it would have grown to now. I'm in my mid 40s now, and that was in my late 20s. So I lost out on all that growth, all that compounding interest. And it's one of the reasons the recession taught me so much about the mistakes that people make. And it's why I started the Budgetnista, so I can help people avoid some of the mistakes that I made.
And that's the importance of having an emergency fund, right?
Mhm.
Because I remember the Great Recession very vividly. I lost my job, but
Mhm.
I think most people over the span of their career will probably lose their job, right?
Yeah,
Like that's just there are cycles. We see it. We certainly see it now with a lot of layoffs. I think you see those headlines every day, and that is one of the most important things that you need to save for.
absolutely. And so the rule of thumb, they tell you like 3 to 6 months. But what I say is that at minimum 3 months, and then look at your current industry. How quickly do you think you can replace your income? So my mom, before she retired, was a nurse. 3 months is plenty for a nurse. I remember in high school when her hospital closed down, we were getting upwards of 30 calls a day from hospitals because nurses were high in demand then, and they continue to be high in demand now. So as a nurse, 3 months, plenty, you can replace your income. My sister is an engineer, and it took her almost a year to get her first job. So she probably needs at least 6 months, maybe even up to a year of emergency savings, because if she were to lose her job, it might take her a very long time to replace that income. So get your 3 months and then ask yourself, in my industry, how quickly could I replace my income?
If you had to pick one, I mean, there are a lot of great steps, but for
Mhm.
a young person, what would you say is kind of one of the first steps to take?
So if I was still in my 20s, like 2 years ago, no, just joking, then I would say, honestly, it would be a mindset step,
Mhm.
because it would really be a step about shifting my mindset of what does it look like to actually grow wealth? What does it look like to actually manage my money responsibly? Because it doesn't matter how much money or how little money, quite honestly, that you come into contact with. If your mindset is not primed to grow wealth, then you won't. I've known people who've made several $100,000 a year and have no savings. And I know people who are still teaching and make under 100,000 and, have created a nest egg for themselves that they're going to live very comfortably. And so that mindset is the first place I would start for any young person or anybody starting in their personal financial journey.
Can you talk a little bit about that mindset? It's really interesting.
Well, I think that one, a lot of people are holding on to the mistakes that they've made and are still beating themselves up. Oh, I'm so stupid. I should have done this. That is so unhelpful.
Move
It
on.
is. Yes, you have to forgive yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
like shame shields solutions. So as long as you're beating yourself up, then you're not gonna move forward. One of the best ways to move forward is to tell someone that you trust. They don't have to be a financial whiz, your bestie, your mom, your dad, your whoever, to tell someone like, I just want to share, I'm really struggling financially, or I made this mistake. Because once you release that, shame is like, oh man, Tiffany told, and now she's not in the dark anymore with me. All of a sudden, you're like, wait, I think I can actually do these steps in order to move forward. So, one is releasing that shame by sharing some of your deep, dark financial secrets. Two is getting clear on your goals. Studies show that Goals that are written down are like 50% more likely to happen. Goals that are written down and shared are like 75% more likely to happen. And so get clear on what your goals are. The life that I'm living now financially is one that I wrote down. This is how much I want to make. This is how the kind of house I want to live in. Write your goals down and share them. And then the last thing, as far as this financial shift, is to understand that money is a team sport. You're not in it alone. Like, start to build a financial community around yourself. Whether it's your accountability partner, they don't have to be financially savvy, just really encouraging. You might want to get a financial advisor if that makes sense. It might be an accountant, an attorney, to start to build a community that you can lean into, a board of directors, if you will. You do those three things, you can start to shift your financial mindset.
Mm-hmm. That's all great advice. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, for your insight today. And once again, I do want to remind you that there is still time to register for CNBC's Women in Wealth virtual event on March 5th. This is a free event, so scan the QR code to register or visit cnbcevents.com/womeninwealth. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and thank you, Tiffany, for your time. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.